Hello everybody, this is Jim to the Slim, and today we will be reviewing and taking a look at LEGO Star Wars set number 75311, the Imperial Armored Marauder from the Mandalorian series. This set features 478 pieces, as well as two exclusive minifigures, Greef Karga and the Artillery Stormtrooper, featuring that new dual molded helmet. We'll definitely take a closer look at that when we get into the build. Up top we have the actual size, Greef Karga. On the left hand side of the box we have the same artwork on the front, a little snippet, so when it's sideways on the shelf you can tell what set it is. On the back we have a lot of the features of the set. Now interestingly enough, they don't have any thumb tabs on this box. They have the tape, which I thought they usually only do for bigger sets. Apparently they decided to do it for this set as well. Opening the box up, get a good look in. We're not going to get a good look inside. It's kind of an exercise in futility. We can just pour everything out. We got at least 4 bags. I don't know why the instruction manual got bent, even though the box isn't. The box is not. This would probably just got mixed up with the bags and got bent. There we go. Simple 4-bag build. And I'll be back after I'm done. Alright, you guys. Here we are with our completed Imperial Armored Marauder. And I must say, it actually, for a gray block, it came out really nice. But before we take a look at the build itself, let's take a look at the minifigures. First up, we have our Season 2 Greef Karga, featuring the same hair, I believe, as the Season 1 version, but he's only has one face now, only one serious face. Has no alternate face on the back of his head. He does have his new outfit, his gray stubbly beard that he's grown out in Season 2. Rewatching the episode, that did turn out to be true. He's lost one of his blasters apparently, even though they decided to go take on the Imperial base. He only took one blaster. But even with all the inconsistencies with his original version, all the interesting changes, he is exclusive to this set as of now. Next up is our second exclusive minifigure, our Artillery Trooper. He came with this mortar build. The mortar obviously is just for looks, it doesn't actually fire anything. Looking at the figure himself, he has the yellow accents on his armor as well as a yellow pauldron. Removing his helmet, he has your typical angry clone face as far as I can tell. Yeah, they utilize this clear piece for the backpack, which has those 2 pieces on it, and I'm not sure what those represent. Having removed his head, his pauldron, and his backpack, we can take a look at the back. They have this nice, unique, detailed back print. The one thing they did forget on this helmet is they didn't put those gray bits in the black spots. Not sure why. But other than that, it's a fairly good looking helmet. Next up, we have our 2 regular stormtroopers, and while their helmets do have the gray printing on the back, while they are physically identical in terms of armor and helmet, there is one slight difference between the 2 figures, and that is their heads. One of them we see looks to be African American, either, I believe it's a guy. Hard to tell without the hairpiece, and even then it's Lego, it's really hard to tell. The other one looks to be more of a feminine figurine, so it's cool to get some new stormtroopers who aren't just the same guy we've always gotten in other sets. Looking at their backs, we can see their back printing is definitely different from that Artillery Trooper, although with his backpack you really can only see what's down below, not really what's up above. Now, moving on to the Armored Marauder itself, we have a lot of different play features and details packed into such a small set. The first thing you may notice is we have stud shooters on the front and stud shooters on the top. Now, These stud shooters on the top definitely represent the cannons that we saw Greef Karga firing at the TIE fighters in the episode of the Mandalorian, but they do not pivot up and down. They did not build that functionality in, but you can swivel them back and forth. Looking at the back, we have the gunner's area, and we have the engines. The gunner's area opens up quite simply by folding it down. You can see there's a seat in there, and it only swivels this far. It does not swivel 360 degrees as they did in the show. Moving around, actually continuing on the top, we have a small hatch. You can stand a minifigure up inside this small opening. As they showed on the box, they had Greef Karga standing in there shooting at the stormtroopers. You also have access to the sides. Both sides have identical crates, which are a little difficult to get out. They slide in very easily. These crates you may recognize also having been included in the Mos Eisley Cantina build with the Imperial logo and the Airbrush on the side. I'm using mine to store some of my extra stud shooter ammunition. It doesn't fit perfectly, which is why you may have noticed I have one of the extra parts over there. If you get the top on properly, you can even slide it back in, even if it's not on properly. It slides in fairly easily. They do have these, what I believe represent cannons on the side, and from what I could see from pictures I found online, those are accurate, although you never see them firing these ones in the one episode that this vehicle was in. These doors on the side, it's identical on both sides. The top opens up, the ramp drops down, and get some nice access to the interior. Do the same thing on this side as well. You get a little access, not very much. We have access also to the front. The top lifts up, front flips down. You have a nice control panel for the driver. Now, this isn't one-to-one minifig scale, as in the show, we had 3 characters in the front, or 2 in the front and 1 behind. And speaking of which, it would have been nice to get a Mithril with this set, but I'm not going to complain about that artillery trooper. He was pretty cool. The other way to access the interior is through this hatch up top. It's your typical hatch that we've seen in many, many LEGO sets. You have 2 seats down in there. One of the cool things about this set is that you can fit all of your minifigures that are included into the vehicle. Although, watching the show and understanding the context, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's cool that you actually can. If you want to be a little more accurate, you could bring along one of your Cardoons from a separate set, which is probably what they had in mind when they created this set, and seat her in the driver's seat as she was in the show. And you can bring over Greef Karga, slide him in the back, in the gunner's seat, again as he was in the episode that this vehicle was included in. Close it right up. You can fire off these stud shooters. I've already done that in previous reviews and don't feel like having to look for these studs, so I'm going to trust that you know how stud shooters work by now. You can have your stormtroopers trying to stop the Armored Marauder. As I said, you can fit all these minifigures inside of the vehicle at once, if that so suits your needs. And have one, easier said than done with the gun pointed at the floor. You can have one driving, have the other 2 riding in the back. Again, you need to have your guns pointing a little forward because these seats are fairly low. Then you also have to take into consideration the other pieces down in there. Get your artillery trooper in the back seat. Probably should put him in first. He will click into place if you get him in properly. You can see them seated down in there. You can even use this front section for a bit of storage. You can fold up your mortar. Go ahead and stow it on inside. Close it right up. And you're good to go. Another thing I forgot to mention is that on the bottom of the build, they have these inverted tiles, which allow you to slide it easily along any surface without scratching either the surface or your bricks. It's very nice. One thing to note with this model in terms of scaling is that in the episode we did see this vehicle fell on top of Mithral's land speeder and crushed it, so it should be a bit bigger than this. So it's interesting that it's scaled down compared to Luke's land speeder, which would presumably be a similar size to Mithral's land speeder, but that just is what it is. And ultimately, for displayability, you may just want to have Greef Karga as he is on the box, hanging out the top hatch, firing at the opposing stormtroopers. And with that, we come to the ultimate question. Is this set worth the money? And for $40 with 478 pieces, or if you catch it on currently on Walmart.com, it's $31.99, I believe. You're actually getting a good value, 2 exclusive minifigures, a feature-packed build. I mean, for the size, it's got so many features. Very fun playset. Very cool for displayability as well. If you are a fan of The Mandalorian, if you're collecting the Mandalorian sets, it may just be a must-have. And at this point, let me know what you think. As always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this set? Is this one that you have or will have picked up or do plan to pick up? Is this going to be a pass for you? And with that, this is Jim to the Slim, signing out.